Good evening, everyone. Welcome. We are so excited to have you join us for Your Community as Your Client, a powerful introduction to our upcoming Lobby Days experience. As social workers, we are trained to support individuals, families, and communities. And today we're expanding that lens to explore how we show up as advocates at the systems level. This session is designed to help you translate your core social work skills and be able to effectively translate them for lobbying and influencing policy. We are honored to hear from Dr. Manalo, our chapter's past president, who will share his expertise on how to navigate legislative spaces and build meaningful relationships with policymakers and use your voice to create lasting impact. Next slide, please. To help ground us to this opportunity, we would like to share our chapter's zero tolerance policy. NASW-CA provides a harassment-free experience for everyone, regardless of gender identity and expression, age, sexual orientation, disability, physical appearance, body size, race, ethnicity, religion, or lack thereof, nationality, level of experience, or technology choices. We do not tolerate harassment of program participants, staff, or members in any form, nor do we tolerate behavior that would reasonably lead to another participant being made to feel unsafe, insecure, or frightened for their physical or emotional well-being. All communication should be appropriate for a professional audience. To maintain fairness and neutrality, any form of campaigning, including any promotion of a candidacy, campaign messaging, endorsements, election-related advocacy, or distribution of campaign-related materials through the NASW-CA events, communications, or platforms is prohibited. Program participants, including stakeholders, violating these rules may be expelled from the program without a refund. In such cases, security or staff will be available to escort them out of the event space, ensuring the safety and comfort of all other participants at the organizer's discretion. By registering for this event, you agree to follow the code of conduct and adhere to this policy. So again, we would love to welcome you to this event. My name is Dr. Jasmine Smith. I am the chapter's director of capacity building, and I believe I would love to introduce you next to our policy manager, Bindu Makamala, who will be sharing about our upcoming lobby days and the CEU registration.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Hi, everyone. My name is Bindu Kamala, pronoun she, her. And as Dr. Smith mentioned, policy manager with the chapter. And so we are so very excited to host our annual lobby day this year in person, April 11th and 12th and 13th as well. And so we have our virtual registration still open with the deadline of April 6th. So please scan that QR code, or you can also find our virtual registration on our chapter website. So we would love for you all to join us virtually if you haven't already registered to join us in person. Yeah, please save that date and scan that QR code. And we also have, I believe, our CEU sign in on our next slide. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. And I am also dropping the CEU sign-in link in the chat. But you're eligible to receive 1.5 CEUs for this event. So please just take a quick second, scan the QR code, type in that link, or click on the link in the chat. And please also remain for the rest of this event so you can also fill out your CEU sign out form, which you'll also have to fill out, and then also is a great way for us to receive feedback on this event.
Thank you so much, Bindu. So we'll give you a few moments to complete that, and I will read Dr. Manalo's bio, and then we'll turn it over to you, Dr. Manalo, for your presentation. So Victor Manalo is a seasoned social work professional with over 40 years of experience dedicated to advancing macro-level direct practice. A recognized leader in political social work, Victor brings more than 2 decades of public service, including roles as mayor and council member of the city of Artesia, chair of the Artesia Planning Commission, and current appointee to the Los Angeles County Behavioral Health Commission, to his mission of building stronger, more connected communities. Victor leverages local leadership, trusted relationships, and data-informed strategies to drive meaningful change. His ability to bridge the public, private, and nonprofit sectors has earned him recognition from the National Association of Social Workers, Los Angeles County Supervisor Janice Hahn, Dr. Lisa Wong, Director of the Department of Mental Health, and Brandon Nichols, Director of the Department of Children and Family Services. In 2018, Victor co-funded the Downey Cares collaborative with former Downey Mayor Rick Rodriguez, with support from Supervisor Hahn and then DCFS Director Bobby Cagle. This initiative exemplifies his commitment to convening diverse partners to support children and families impacted by the foster care system. Whether teaching at California State University, Los Angeles, advising government and community agencies, or attending local meetings across LA County, Victor is energized by people who share his passion for creating healthier, more equitable communities. Outside of work, Victor is a devoted Los Angeles Kings season ticket holder and a fan of country music and 80s rock and pop. His commute soundtrack features artists like Casey Musgraves, Morgan Wallen, and Luke Combs. He and his wife, Monica, have been married for over 33 years and enjoy watching Curb Your Enthusiasm and The Pit while keeping up with their three adult children. You can reach out to Victor by email and by phone or text, which we will place in the chat via his website or his LinkedIn and Instagram pages at The Macro Social Worker. So thank you again, Dr. Manalo, for sharing your time, your wisdom, and expertise, and we will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. I really appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. My name is Dr. Victor Manalo, and I am so thrilled to be with all of you this evening. And I'm looking forward to our work together, not just this evening, but I'll see you in Sacramento as well. And for those of you that want to continue your legislative advocacy journey, you can see me after the conference because I'm going to be doing a follow-up workshop after the conference as well. So you're buying into a whole lot here, and that is really the opportunity to grow as a social work professional, and for us as a profession to develop influence, legislative influence here in the state of California. So welcome everyone. And if you don't mind, um, put your name and your location if you're okay to do that, and maybe if you're a student, your university or your agency. I'd just love to see where everyone's from. We have over 60 people that are here now, and love to hear from you and in the chat and where you're from. And throughout the workshop today, I'll be doing some stuff. I'll ask you to put some stuff on the chat. And we'll be doing some worksheets together. So we have a lot of stuff to cover in about 90 minutes or less, and I want to make sure that I honor everyone's time and not keep you on too late. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get my slide deck going here. Here we go. So the um, the title of the workshop is "Your Community is Your Client," and that will come a little bit more clear as we go on in the workshop. But Dr. Smith already told you a little bit about my background. Of course, I'm a social worker, and all of my degrees are in social work. So I have a bachelor's degree in social work, I have a master's degree in social work, and I have my PhD also in social work. And I've been practicing for a long, long time. More than 2 decades, that's for sure, which is what I think Dr. Smith mentioned. And I wrote that, so I think I was incorrect. I've actually been working for a long time as a social worker, but worked at a variety of different places and spaces. Uh, but I've been teaching at Cal State LA since full time since 2002. And before that, I was teaching as a field faculty. So I've been teaching at Cal State LA for a long time. And I think I noticed in the chat some of my former students. So welcome and maybe current students. So that's great. Um, and as Dr. Smith mentioned, I was an elected official. So I was a city council member in the city of Artesia, which is where I'm transmitting from here on Zoom now. I'm at home in the city of Artesia, which is in the southeast part of LA County, close to Long Beach, Cerritos. Some of you may know Cerritos because we have a mall, and or Norwalk, Bellflower, kind of the cities in my area, Lakewood. So I was here for 12 years as a city councilman, and I still remain active in my city as a planning commissioner. In fact, I'm the chair of the planning commission. And also, I have the county seal on there because, as Dr. Smith mentioned, I am an appointee of Supervisor Janice Hahn to the Behavioral Health Commission for Los Angeles County. And this year, I am honored to be the chairman of that commission. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that work soon. I wanted to give a shout out and thanks to Dr. Highsmith, who's the executive director of the chapter. I want to thank him for this partnership. This SW2E is my part of my consulting business, which is social workers to elected office, and it's really about building social work leaders. Whether you want to run for elected office or you want to be active in your community, I can help you with that. And I definitely want to encourage all social workers to seek leadership positions in their communities. So thank you to Dr. Highsmith. Thank you all to all the chapter staff for all the work they put into making this workshop go and getting such a great turnout from all of you. So again, the topic is your community is your client, and I want you to think about and I don't know how many of you unfortunately I have my slide deck up, so I can't see a lot of you on the screens. But generally, when we have these lobby day conferences, many of the people that attend are students. So I'm assuming that many of you are students. Um, and I'm sure there hopefully are other social work members that are working in the field that are here. But I want you to think about this, your communities as if your community were your client. And we don't really talk about that much in our social work education. Perhaps some of you may have gotten that. Um, but I see the type of work that we're doing at the legislative level, like the things that we're going to be doing here over the Lobby Days conference and in the next and in the workshops that I'll be doing with you. I like for you to see your community as the person, as the client, right? So, like with any good client that you have, and many of you who are students, maybe some of you have already been through an internship or two, right? And you've had some practice in uh, being able to meet with your client and learn about your client and talk to your client and maybe provide some level of clinical services with your client. And I'd like you to think about your own communities where you live in the same way. But of course, communities are not just one person, like in a therapeutic relationship or a clinical relationship, right? Your community is made up of a lot of different people. But generally, I find communities made up of kind of five primary sectors. Okay. So there's government. So you have government, you have elected officials. So in your cities, you may have city council members, you have city staff in the city where you live. But there are also, and we'll talk about later, there are state legislators, there are county legislators, there are county supervisors, there are state legislators that represent you in your community. Those are all part of government that is a part of our communities. There are business leaders, there are business folks, there are people that own businesses in your community that are part of your community, not only because they provide a service or a business, but because they work there and because they serve people in your community. There are nonprofits, as you all know. There are philanthropic organizations. So there are agencies, organizations that give out money, support different causes in your community. And of course, there are the neighbors. There are the regular folks like you and I, your neighbors, the people that live in your neighborhood and your community. Those are the different parts of the community. that I want you to think about as your client. So in order to get to know your client, you have to get to know people in each of these different sectors. Okay. So because we're talking about developing legislative influence, and we're all going to be going to Sacramento next month for the Lobby Days conference, I'm going to focus in on government as an essential sector of the community that you all need to get to know. Okay. And I'll tell you why. You probably know why, but I'll give you some ideas of for example, our state legislature. Okay. So our state legislature is made up of 120 elected legislators. That's 40 state senators, California state senators, and that's 80 California state assembly members. All right. So that's two houses. You have a Senate, which is 40. You have an assembly, which is 80 members. Those are the two houses that form our state legislature. And each and every one of you, no matter where you live in California, you're all represented by one assembly member and one state senator. Okay? Each and every one of you have one state assembly member and one state senator that represents you where you live. Okay? These legislators are important for some very important things in our state that affect you in your communities. So, not just legislation in terms of introducing and drafting bills and debating the merits of the bills and passing bills to the governor's signature, they're also in charge of a budget. Okay. And the reason why the state of California is such an important part of all of our communities is because they have a lot of money. They have a lot of money. Um, just, and I'll tell you, as I just looked it up today, what the budget is for the state of California for 2026, 2027. I'm sure you could all Google it right now if you wanted to. But I'll tell you, the state of California's budget for next year, starting in July of 2026, is $248 billion. $248 billion. That's a lot of money. 93 billion of that is for health and human services. $93 billion is for health and human services. Housing and homelessness is $1 billion. Okay. So we can do the math, right? $1 billion, you have about 120 legislative districts, right? So primarily, you've got 80 assembly districts and 40. So let's say, even if we divided it, right, amongst all these different districts, right, close to 100, I mean 120 total districts, but they're overlapping districts, okay? So that means, divide housing and homelessness by 100, right? And you get millions of dollars that could conceivably be spent in your district for homelessness, right? Obviously, different districts are different sizes, but I'm just saying that I'm just illustrating a point here is that if we want to be effective as legislative advocates, we need to know who has the money because if you want all these great ideas that you all have, right, to change the system, we need people to invest money and our legislators, of course, to invest money in our communities. Okay? So what I'd like you to do, I'm going to turn off my screen for just a second. And stop my show for a second here. Is I'm going to put something, let's see if I can get this. There we go. I'm going to put a link in the chat for you. And some of you may have, if you were able to look over the materials that were sent to you in preparation for this for this workshop, you'll see this link on one of your pages. This is a Find Your Representative link. So if you don't know who your representatives are, remember I just said that each of you have one state senator and one state assembly member. Okay? So if you click on that link right now, this is what comes up. It says find your California representatives. So here you put in your zip code, I mean your address. Et voila, I have my two representatives. I have State Assembly District 67, Assembly Member Sharon Quirk Silva, and I have my state senator who is Senator Tony Strickland. He's a Republican, District 36. Okay. So I'd like each and every one of you to click on that link. And if you haven't done it already, I want you to know who these people are that represent you because these are more than likely the offices you're going to be visiting in Sacramento next month. Okay. So I'll give you a minute to do that. Just put your address in there and your two representatives should show up. Okay. So you have your two representatives. I'll give you a couple more seconds to do that while I pull up a document that I'm going to put into the chat. But once those legislators come up, go ahead and click on those links. All right. Those links are going to take you directly to their official legislator website. So it's going to take you to the assembly website, their assembly page, or their state senate page. All right. So go ahead and click on those links. And what I want you to do is just take a look at the website. Specifically, I want you to look at a couple of things. The one thing I want you to look at is look at any information on that website that tells you a little bit about that elected official, what they're about, what their priorities are, what kind of work did they do before they were on the assembly, what kind of things are they doing in the community, right? So just peruse both sites and see if you can find anything on those websites that are of interest to you. And if you find anything interesting, go ahead and put in the chat. I want to hear what you see from your assembly members and or your senators, okay? Anything that you find interesting to you as a social worker or social work student. So, for example, my assembly member, Sharon Quirk Silva, she's a former teacher. Of course, I knew that before I read her biography, but she was a school teacher for a long time. And I don't remember what level she was. No, the districts are set. You may be thinking of the congressional districts that we voted for. Those changed, but the state districts do not change. They're the same. They only change every 10 years. So the state districts did not change. Okay. So thank you, Evan. Senator Rubio, District 22, known for groundbreaking domestic violence policy initiatives. Great. That's good, right? Hopefully that's something that's of interest to you, Evan. But if not, it gives you an indication of who this person is and what they care about, right? That's important. Okay. Anything else that you all are finding? Leader in housing development, good. Green energy advocate, wonderful. Haley, click on the link when you search your legislators and the legislators come up. There should be a link to their website. Okay, good. I see a lot of you. Oh, great. Oh, Cheryl, great. I'm glad to hear that. All right. Higher education bill package. Wonderful. Okay, good. Both of your reps are alumni of CSUN. I imagine that's where you go to school, Veronica. Okay, correct. Yes. Advocating for telework, tie into telework discussions. Absolutely. You guys are great. You're doing a great job. Okay. So keep it up. Keep looking for those things that are of interest to your legislator and to you. Okay. And I am going to drop, and some of you may have already downloaded this form, but there's a state legislators worksheet, which I'm dropping in the chat right now. So if you did not have a chance to open it up, it is now in the chat, and you can take a look at it for yourself. And I'll share it on my screen so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. So here's a state legislators worksheet. So I want you to use this to identify the name of your assembly member and the name of your senator, the district number, which should show up on that link that says find your legislator, right? So the district number, and then I want you to find the district office. Okay. So even though they spend their time, most of their time in Sacramento during the week doing legislation, they have a district office, and it's fairly close to where you live. Okay. So for example, my assembly member, Sharon Quirk Silva, and I notice some of you share her as your representative. Her district office is in La Palma, which is less than 5 miles away from me. I know exactly where it is, and I know some of the businesses in that area that I frequent. Okay. Tony Strickland, Senator Strickland, his office is a little bit further away from me, but I know where that is too. It's in Huntington Beach. Okay. So albeit it's a little bit of a drive for me to get to Huntington Beach, I know where it is. Okay. It's better than driving to Sacramento from here. So I want you to put down district office information, phone numbers that you might find there, emails perhaps you might find. You don't have to do all this now. Hang on to this. You can spend some time after the workshop filling this out. And then in the very last column, write down all these things that you're finding about your assembly member or your state senator, right? So I found out that my assembly member, Sharon Quirk Silva, she's into affordable housing and addressing the homelessness crisis. With Senator Strickland, he's a visiting scholar at USC. That's where I got my PhD. He wants to address crime and homelessness and affordability, right? So even though Tony Strickland is a Republican and I'm a Democrat, I can find some things that I have in common with him, right? We may have different ways of looking at things, but if he's interested in homelessness and affordability, that's his interest. It is also my interest. So we can agree on issues that we might want to address together. Okay. So this is really for you to start to get an understanding of the elected official that represents you. Okay. In preparation for our visit to Sacramento. Okay. All right. I'm just going to go through some of these chats here. Okay. You're finding a lot of good stuff here. And foster care. Yes, Assemblymember Corey Jackson is an MSW, also has a doctorate in social work. Okay. Right. Yeah. All of these things depend, right? But I'm just going by what they say on their website. All right? Because really anyone can say whatever they want. You all know that. But when you get to meet them, then you find out, what is their interest in that particular issue. And that will bring me, thank you for those comments, because that brings me to my next section here. So I'm going to get back onto my slide deck. So you notice when you opened up that sheet, it had in red, that was all my stuff. That's just that was an example for you to use, right? So you're going to fill in that worksheet with your state assembly member and your state senator. Okay? All right, so let's get back to my slideshow here. And I'm going to do a quick check here, get my slideshow going. I'm doing a quick check here on my time. And okay, I'm doing good. I'm just about on time, so that's great. Okay, so here we go. The importance of human relationships. This comes straight out of the Code of Ethics. Okay. The reason why I have you look at your legislators' websites and look and see who they are and what they represent and what they talk about and what's important to them and their priorities and look at their pictures and everything else they have on their website, right? The reason why I have you do that is to remind you that these elected officials are human beings. Okay? They and we as social workers, we value, this comes straight out of our code of ethics, we value the importance of human relationships, right? The ethical principle is that social workers recognize the central importance of human relationships. So we believe that it is very important. Why? It's important because of the next line that's in the code of ethics. It says this: social workers understand that relationships between and among people are an important vehicle for change. Relationships between and among people are an important vehicle for change. Okay? It doesn't say relationships between and among people that agree with each other 99% of the time are an important vehicle for change, or that relationships between and among people that we agree with are an important vehicle for change, right? It says that relationships are an important vehicle for change. It's the same thing with our value of the dignity, the worth and dignity of human beings, right? The respect that we give people. Our code of ethics says we respect people because they're human beings. Doesn't say we respect people only when we agree with them or that when we like them, or we only respect them when they're the same political party as we are. Okay. Um, we have to respect everyone. Okay, no matter what they've done, right? And many of us social workers, we work with people that have done some pretty horrible things, right? Yet our code of ethics says that we have to treat them with respect because they're a human being. The same goes with elected officials. Okay. And I know that many of you, a lot of people come into this type of legislative advocacy work with a very biased view of elected officials. I know because I was an elected official. Most people think that we are crooked, that we are all in it for ourselves, and that we don't care about the people that we represent. And I can tell you from my own experience that is far from the truth. Now, are there people like that? Yes. But I found the vast majority of people that I've met as an elected official for over 12 years and continuing because I still meet more elected officials. Um, is that they all have good hearts and they want to make a contribution to their community, right? Just like we do. So I think if we can meet people where they're at, like we do with our clients, right? Meet them where they're at and then work with them from there, we can be very influential advocates if we focus on the importance of creating a relationship. Okay. And this is why I am doing this workshop because the what I've learned from my time as an elected official is that influence comes with the relationships that you build. How many? I'm sure there are many of you. I noticed a few names of some of my students there. I know some of you have gone to lobby days before, right? But the reason why I wanted to help the chapter in this pre-conference for lobby days is because lobby days, being an influential, effective legislative advocate is more than just going to Sacramento one day out of a year and meeting with your legislator for 15 minutes. You cannot be influential in that way. You have to be the way that you build influence as a social worker and influence as an advocate for legislation is by building relationships with people. And so what we're talking about here tonight is building relationships with the elected officials that represent you. That's the way that you develop influence. So for those of you who are going to go along on this journey with me to build your legislative influence, whether you're a student or whether you're just graduated or whether you've been in the field for a while, you can build your influence. Okay. All right. So relationships, last thing I'll leave with you here about relationships is that, and for those of you who are students know this, right? You spend a lot of time in your education talking, practicing, learning how to create relationships with your clients. Okay. So we become experts in creating relationships, right? The problem is we don't use those relationships on anybody else besides our clients. So I'm going to challenge all of you to think about how to use your relationship building skills that you have learned as students, and some of you in social work through social work practice, years of practice, right? How to use those relationships with other people, right? And in this case, with your elected officials. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. I'll just give you a brief overview of two important relationships that I've built over the last probably 4 to 8 years. Okay. Person on the left is Supervisor Janice Hahn. That's me with Supervisor Hahn. And the one on the right is me with Los Angeles County Sheriff Robert Luna. Now, looking at those pictures, what could you say? What can you say about, is there anything that you can get from the quality of my relationship with these folks from these pictures? You can put in the chat. They both like me. Yeah, Vin, you're right. They do. They both like me. This was not like, hey, I know you. Let's take a selfie, right? It wasn't that type of a picture. How do you know they like me? They feel safe with me? I hope so. I probably feel safer with the sheriff than he does with me. Close, smiling. There's a closeness to it. Yes, body language, right? Right. Very good. Yeah, looks like we're good friends. Thanks, Ben. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Smiles are deep in the eyes, too. Yeah, wow. Yeah, willing to pose for a pic with me. You know, I have to tell you something. My wife doesn't like that picture with me and Supervisor Hahn. Because it looks like an intimate photo, does it not? Yeah, it's like you're close. Like that was the end of a long she had a big reception at the South Coast botanical gardens out on the peninsula. And it was a long event, and she was tired, and she said, "Let's take a picture." And she said, "But I want to sit down. I'm tired." So she sat down, and I just sat next to her, put my arm around her, and we took a picture. Right. And I love that picture because it shows the type of relationships that we all can have with people that are not our clients, right? But people that have authority, people that are important, people that have resources, people that can move and shake, people that can get things done. And these two folks, ladies and gentlemen, can get things done in Los Angeles County. That's why I am I am honored to be amongst the the people that I have a good relationship with. Okay, so you can all do that too, right? You can do that because you're social workers and you know how to create good relationships. So now I'm going to share with you my another worksheet that some of you may have gotten in your in the emails. But give me a second to pull it up, and I'm going to put it in the chat. If you have it, go ahead and pull it up. They are not Republicans, Haley. Supervisor Hahn is a Democrat. I don't know what the sheriff is. I don't know if he has a political affiliation or not. Okay, because when you run for sheriff, you don't run as a Democrat or Republican. You just it's called a nonpartisan position. But Janice Hahn is a Democrat. Okay. All right. So if you want to pull up that relationship assets document that I just put into the worksheet that I just put into the chat, I'll show you how this works. Okay. I don't know what happened here. It got weird. There we go. All right. Let me try to fix this. This is looking weird on my screen. Okay. So I'll just go through this with you really quickly. Okay. You can take some time after we're done with the workshop, but I want to make sure I leave time again to take any questions from all of you. On the left side are relationship assets that all of you have. Okay. So, for example, affirming people's dignity and worth, right? You can all do that. You know how to do that. You know how to give thanks, which is in the middle column here, right? You know how to appreciate people. You know how to express gratitude. You know how to you know how to affirm people's values, their self-esteem and identity. You know how to, let's see, ownership involvement is like how to acknowledge the fact that they do some important things or that um, they are involved in important tasks. Okay. You can provide comfort in a number of different ways. One of the ways is to avoid hassles. So if someone's having a difficulty doing something and you can help them by providing them a resource, right? You're helping them, right? Because now they don't have to do um, that um, that research, right? I'll give you a great example. I was meeting with Los Angeles County Supervisor Lindsay Horvath last week, and she needs to make two appointments to our Behavioral Health Commission. And when I met with her, I said, Supervisor Horvath, if you're okay, I'd be happy to identify people that live in your district that I could recommend to you to be appointed to the commission. She said, great. I'm helping her do what she actually should be doing it because it's her appointee. She's the one that's going to appoint the commissioner. But if I help her, right, which I'm doing, then it it continues to build a relationship that we already have. She knows that I'm someone that is a go-to person that can help her with certain things. Okay. So that's what this category is about, is affirming people. We can affirm the relationship. You know how to do this. And these are basic skills that we all know how to do, right? Understanding, listening, accepting, including, right? We do that every day with our clients. We listen. We know how to listen, right? How powerful is it to listen to people? You know how powerful that is. Well, guess what? Not a lot of people listen to elected officials. And many of you know why. But people really don't listen to them. The other reason why they don't listen to them is because if they have a chance to visit them in Sacramento, for example, like we're going to do next month, you spend most of your time talking, advocating, as opposed to listening to the legislator or their staff, right? Listening is a very important skill that you can use to build your relationship. If you can show that you listen to people, then people are more willing to trust you and to talk to you about things, right? That's what a relationship is about. Feeling close in friendship, like the pictures I showed you, right? You affirm the relationship. You show each other that you have a certain level of closeness, okay? And then we can all affirm their work. There are things, there are resources we can provide to make their life easier, right? So, for example, those of you identified stuff that your legislators are that they prioritize, right? So Evan said that your senator has a priority on domestic violence. Well, if you know folks in your district, or maybe even you have connections to domestic violence experts, social workers that work in the community, educators, maybe even maybe even victims and clients who are willing to come, to be a resource to your state senator, that's like gold to these people because they don't know who all these people are. You have contact with these people, you have relationships with them, but they may not know who these people are. They may not even know that your domestic violence agency actually exists in their Senate district or their assembly district. So you can do a great service by saying, hey, you're interested in domestic violence. Guess what? Here's an agency in your district that does it. Maybe you should talk to them. And maybe they can help you with legislation, right? You know people in your community that could help with other tasks, maybe other social workers, maybe other issues, right? You can, if if they have a town hall event in their city, I saw some of you mention that in the chat, and you know people and you say, hey, let's go to the town hall meeting and show some support for our legislator. I've met her in Sacramento, and I really want to show her that, we're active and we're concerned about what's going on in this district. Then you all show up at the town hall meeting, right? That's easy. That's easy stuff to do. It doesn't cost you anything, but it builds credence and it builds your relationship because you are now saying that their work is important. Social capital, absolutely, Ben. It's you have something valuable to give to them that will help them do a very difficult job, which is being an elected official, right? And you then gain access for yourself and for your colleagues and for your clients and for the issue, you gain access to someone who is a state legislator. Okay. That's not a bad relationship to have. Okay. If you want to be, well, that's what we're here for, Haley. I'm going to show you how you're going to get to know people. Okay. And you're going to start today. Okay. And so that brings me to so when you work this worksheet, let me just finish up this worksheet. As you are reading their bios, and maybe even, after we're done, go on and Google them, find out more information. Maybe there are websites, maybe there are articles, maybe there are podcasts, maybe there are news articles or things that you can find information. Find information about them and then put them here in the right column. Are these things that you can thank them for? Are there things that you can affirm them for? Are there things that you can help them with? Right? So I'll give you an example here on affirming the relationship and listening to people, right? In El Monte, the city of El Monte, which is here in Los Angeles County, a few weeks ago, people were so incensed that the El Monte Police Department did not help a young woman who was being detained, who was being pulled over by ICE, that they went to a city council meeting and they started yelling and screaming and throwing F-bombs and doing screaming at the chief of police, screaming at the council members, right? Now, of course, they have every right to do that, right? They have every right to do that. But as a person that sat on the dais and had people yell and scream at me and throw F-bombs at me, I'll have to tell you, you could probably imagine it's no fun. Okay? It's no fun. So I had a student that wanted to go visit a council member in El Monte. I said, well, before you go, I want you to know these council members are probably not very excited to meet with the constituents right now because they just got yelled at by a whole bunch of people. So you might reach out to them and they might not want to meet with you. But I gave her some ideas on how to contact them, which I'm going to share with you in a minute, right? That will help you to even connect with people that may be wary about why you want to meet with them. Okay. But I told her, and guess what? She has a meeting with her next week. So what I told her is use your listening skills, use your empathetic skills. What do you think? What could you say to this councilwoman when you meet with her to help her feel at ease? Right? You could say, hey, I saw on the news what happened a couple weeks, so I just want to tell you that must have been horrible. Right? You're listening, you're reflecting, you're showing that you're not there to criticize, you're not there to yell, you're not there to scream, you're not there to call them F this and F that, but you are there to listen, to understand. Okay? That's very, very powerful. Okay? So on the right side, fill out the things that you think you can help them with or affirm their work with. Okay? Very simple. If you can fill this out, right, before we go to Sacramento, right? That would be wonderful, right? Because then when you go to Sacramento, you can pull all this stuff out in your meeting, right? And you're not just going to talk about laws or legislation, right? You're going to say, "Hey, I know that the assembly member is concerned about this. I want to help." Or I know that the senator really is interested in finding a solution for this. Guess what? I know agencies in the district that would love to help him with this. Okay? Yes, validating the stressors, because it's very stressful being an elected official. Believe me, even in a city like mine, which is only 16,000 people, it's stressful, right? Because everybody knows you. I'm in a small city, right? I go to the market, people would accost me at the market, right? It's tough. And on top of that, I didn't get paid a whole lot of money. Some of you think, oh, wow, Dr. Manalo, he got paid a lot of money when he was a council member. No, you know how much I got paid? $500 a month. Yet everybody thinks that I was getting paid $1 million, right? And that I was working as a council member. That was my full-time job, and that I should be doing that job 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because I was getting paid $1 million. Okay? Not true. City of Artesia, $500. And most cities in LA County and most cities across California, it's determined by statute how much you make, right? So unless you're in a big city like San Jose or Los Angeles or some of the bigger cities, where you get paid a lot of money, most cities don't make a lot of money. Okay. Um, so, these are people doing a tough job. And it takes some understanding and empathy to understand where they're coming from. Okay. All right. So work on this relationship assets sheet. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my, just checking on time here. I'm doing okay. Getting ready to wrap up and get to your questions. All right. So initiating professional contact. Now, this is the piece that I'm going to challenge you. Okay. Um, all the information that you collected on your legislators. Okay, I'm going to turn off sharing my screen so that I can see you all here. Okay. It would be an amazing first step of your journey if you could meet with a staff member of your legislator's office, your district office that you identified on that legislative worksheet. Remember that? There's a district office. If you could meet with a staff member in that office, right? You each have a senator and an assembly member. If you could meet with a staff member in one or both of those offices before we go to Sacramento, that would be optimal. Okay. Now, I realize many of you are students. You may not have a whole lot of time to reach out and have a meeting. It could be a Zoom meeting. Doesn't have to be a face-to-face. But many of you, your districts are close to where you are. You may even drive by them and not even realize they're there. Okay. Um, but I want to make it easy for you, right? Because then what happens if you meet with them here in the local district, and then you go to Sacramento next month and you can say, hey, I met with district, your district director, so and so, 3 weeks ago down in the district office. And I got to know her. She's a great staff. And she knows we had a great conversation, right? What are you signaling then to the person in Sacramento? You're signaling to them that, okay, you're in it for the long haul. You're in it because you are now connected with my staff in the district office. So I know that you mean business. You're not just here for a one-shot deal. You're here to offer your services, your expertise, your knowledge, your experience with us to help us do our job. And that's what I would like you to do, if at all possible. Okay. It's not mandatory, right? Can't make you do it. Wish I could, but if you can, it'll be wonderful. So you may be asking me, well, how do I do that? Um, how do I initiate um, this contact? Okay. And yes, it does. Ash, I saw your comment. Let me just tell you this. The people that you are going to meet with, the people that you're going to meet with in these offices, you are the expert in relationship to them. They know nothing about social work. Nothing. They don't know anything about the clients you work with. They don't know hardly any of them even have a clue of what social work is. So when it comes to social work, you are the experts. They are not. Okay? So be confident in your lived experience, be confident in the education that you have, right? And speak from your experience and show them that you are a good person and that you mean well, you want to help, and you're there because you want to help them do their job and get some stuff done in your community. Okay? So, I also included you should have seen it in the materials that you received, and I'm gonna put it into the chat. Give me a second. It's a pre-conference contact script. You can use this whether you're emailing. I would suggest, because we only have about 3.5 weeks before we go to Sacramento, if you're serious about doing this um, visit with the legislative staff, okay, you're not going to meet the legislator in the district office, okay? So don't even try to meet with them. You want to meet with a staff member. And the staff member is just as important because the staff member has a direct line to that legislator. They have a district office for a reason because they want to know what's happening in the district because they represent that district. You live in that district. So when you meet with them, you are giving them information about what's happening in the district. And they will tell the legislator, this is what's happening in the district. Okay? So use this form, these scripts as you uh, um, introduce yourself to the district office. I would give them a phone call. Okay. I know a lot of people like you don't call people anymore, right? But because we're only 3.5 weeks away, I would say call the district office, introduce yourself. My name is so and so. My name is Victor Manalo. I live in the district. I'm a constituent, and I'm reaching out because I saw that the legislator is very concerned about domestic violence. And I want to tell you that I'm a social worker. I'm a social work student. I'm very interested in domestic violence. That's the area I want to work in when I graduate. And I'd love to meet with someone in the district office to talk more about the senator's priority of domestic violence and how I can help. Period. Okay. And you can use any of these scripts. You can mix them and match them however you feel comfortable. Okay. But the most important thing, and you'll see this in the first line of every one of these scripts, the first thing you have to tell them is you are a constituent. You live in the district. That's the most important thing you need to get across right away. Okay? Because what does that signal to them when you say, I am a constituent? What does that mean? I have a vote. That's right, Dale. You were the first one. Ning, 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 ning. Veronica, yes, they have to listen to you because you live in the district because you vote. Whether you vote or not, whether you're eligible to vote or not, you live in the district. They assume you're a voter. And even if you don't vote or you can't vote, you know people that do. Okay, so you have the leg up here. You can use that, right? We talk about leveraging. You can leverage the fact that you are a constituent to get a visit with your elected staff, with your elected official staff. Okay? All this research that you've done is going to help you with your visit with the staff member, right? Because you've identified areas that you have in common that you're interested in. You found out a little bit about them, about the legislator, right? This is also an opportunity to develop a relationship with a district staff member that you might have more contact with than the legislator who spends most of their time in Sacramento, right? So I'll throw out some other questions you might want to ask. What made you decide to work in government? What's your background, right? Do you live in the district, right? All of these things, like you want to start where the client is at, right? Right? You can start where the client, start where they're at, find out about them, find out what motivates them, right? Um, so use it as opportunity. Just you don't have to talk about policies, you don't have to talk about legislation, you don't have to talk about things that you're pissed off about, right? In fact, I would say don't talk about that at all. I would say go in there to start developing a relationship. When you meet your client for the first time, you don't come out and start talking about all the bad stuff in their case file, right? You don't do that. It's the same thing again. Let's use those same skills when we meet with elected officials. or their staff. They're people. We don't know much about them except for what we read on the website. Let's go in and find out more. What motivates them? Why are they interested in homelessness? Why are they interested in severely mentally ill folks? Why are they interested in homelessness? What are they doing about it? How can I help? Okay. Yes, Cheryl, build bridges, not walls. Absolutely. So feel free to use any of those scripts any way you want it. Okay. And, there are about 70 or so of us on this workshop. I would love to go to Sacramento next month and to find out that many of you have done at least one visit before you got to Sacramento, right? You're not going to learn and grow unless you're challenged. Okay, so I'm putting down the challenge, right? You may be scared, you may be anxious about doing it, but I know because I've met a lot of these people, staff as well as electeds. They're people just like you and I, right? And if you can talk to clients, you can talk to these people, okay? And you can educate them about what you do and what your interest is because they may not know anything about social work, okay? All right. So, um, Haley, we'll make sure that we get you those documents. But if you want to email me, I can send them to you as well. All right. So that's the pre-conference script. Okay. So feel free to use that to go out. And again, you don't have to meet with the legislator. Meet with staff. Doesn't matter who the staff person is, as long as you get your foot in that office and meet with someone. Okay. It could be, thank you, Linda. It could be the person that maybe, you know, it could be the most junior person in the office. It doesn't matter. The key is get your foot in the door, establish that relationship, show them that you are a well-meaning, values-oriented, mission-driven, ethical professional that wants to help. Okay? All right. So I'm going to just take a minute to summarize what we've talked about today. I'm going to so as you can tell, hopefully, the point that that I'm hoping that you get here is that I'm I'm want you to focus on relationship building, not lobbying. Okay? Because I've been to lobby days many, many times since I was a graduate student. Okay? Um, so I know what happens at lobby days. I've talked to legislators. I've been through I've done it all. Okay. And, but, and I know why it becomes nerve-wracking because you get up there at Sacramento, you learn about these bills, and now all of a sudden you have to act like you're an expert and you know something about these bills, and you have to talk to your legislators about them. Okay. Now, I want to take the pressure off you a little bit, right? And say that there may be bills when we get up there may be bills you're going to have to talk about. But I think for me, right, the focus is building a relationship. So if you can get out there and do one visit in the district, say in your assembly member's office, and you go to Sacramento and you meet with your assembly member, right? You can start to make that connection. Hey, I met with so and so in your district office. I will keep her posted on these bills that we're talking about today, or I'd be happy to send you more information, or let me know when you're going to be in the district at an event, and I'll make sure that I bring some people by. Okay, whatever it is that you can offer, right? As as an asset, as something that's valuable to that legislator. Okay, so it's about building a relationship because then after the conference, we'll have another workshop like this, and I'm going to check in with everybody about your visits and say, okay, do you want to keep doing this? Because if you want to keep doing these visits, right, we're going to need you. Because if the chapter and if we decide we want to pursue certain pieces of legislation, right, we're going to need you to be there to meet with your district office and to say, hey, my association is telling me to support that you should vote for this bill. Okay. And because you've already created a relationship with them, maybe you've already had two or three different visits with them, they know who you are, they know you're a good person. That's where your influence starts to build because they say, ah, they're not just someone who I've met for the first time coming in here complaining about something. This is someone I've met a few times and I know they're a good person. I know they're social workers. I know they're students. I know about their story, right? It's all about the relationship. So do your best to meet with with the staff in the district office before you get to Sacramento. And then when you get to Sacramento, right, I'm going to give another workshop. And guess what? You'll already know half the stuff that I'm going to be talking about in that workshop because there are going to be people at that conference, sadly enough, that were not able to make it tonight, right? But you all did. So you can lead when in your teams, right? You can lead the discussion. You can lead the team because you already met somebody back in the district office, right? So now you're building your own credibility, right, with your team and with the people that you're going to meet with. But I would be thrilled that when we show up to when we're in Sacramento next month to meet you and for you to come up to me and say, "Hey, Dr. Manalo, I met with so and so in my district." Right? Now, I want to tell you this too. This is an assignment that I give in my classes, undergraduate and graduate classes. All of my students have had to meet a local legislative elected official, whether it was a state official or a city council member or a school board member. And guess what? Everyone has come back from those visits alive and intact. Okay? There is nothing to be intimidated about. There's nothing to be worried about, right? It will be a good learning experience for you. You'll see. Okay? All right. And yeah, they're human beings just like we are. Okay? So just treat them like you would as your client, right? Like a human being and get to know them. Okay? All right. It's almost 6:45. I'm sure there may be questions here. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Um, let's see. Uh, I I don't know what the legislation is yet. I don't know, Dr. Smith, or do we know when we're going to be finding out about the bills or if anyone else on the staff could answer that? Do we know when we're going to find out about the bills that we're going to be talking about at Lobby Days?
Can you hear me? I was trying
Yeah.
to answer. Sorry. Oh,
Oh, yeah.
yes. Our team will be sharing the details shortly.
Okay,
So,
good.
yes, we'll
Good.
be letting you all know.
Okay. All right. Question, Jacob. What if our legislative appointment is not with a representative from our district? Okay. Here's this is a great question. I'm glad you asked it, Jacob. Okay. Um, what I would do if I were you, let's say if you are able to, let's say you're able to meet with someone in your district office. Hopefully you're planning to do that. If you meet with someone in your district office, right, and you go to Sacramento and your appointment is someone else, but you find the office of whoever your legislator is, right? I'd knock on the door or walk into the door and I would say, "Hey, my name's Jacob. I live in the district. I'm here with NASW. Unfortunately, I was not able to get an appointment um, with our team, but I'm going to be here for a little bit. If there's a possibility that I could have a quick meeting with one of the staff, I'd really appreciate it and see what happens. That's what I would do. I did that when I go to Sacramento all the time, right? I'd walk into people's offices, and if they met with me, it was great. If they didn't, then their loss, right? But at least you tried. So that's what I would recommend. Okay. Any tips for structuring local meetings to maximize your impact? Um, well, I think I think the most important thing when you're doing your local meeting, in the local district is just to show them, right? Show them that you are um, you are someone that has resources that are valuable and that you're willing to help. That's what I would say. Okay. Because your impact in Sacramento after having only one visit in the district is going to be limited, right? Our influence has to be consistent over time, right? And two visits is not consistent enough, right? There are people that are paid to lobby in Sacramento. They're there every single day, every single week, meeting with legislators every single day and every single week. Okay? That's what we're competing with. So your two visits aren't going to make a difference. However, if we can be consistent about your meeting in the district office and then once a year meeting in Sacramento and build that consistency over time, right? We can develop influence in this state for social workers. Okay? So it's going to take time. So just focus on the relationship. Okay? Dr. Lincoln, thank you so much for being here, Dr. Lincoln. Yes, there's some people in some of your cities, there are city elections coming up. Good time to meet those city council members too and people running for office. Is requesting assistance with a problem a productive way to initiate contact? Um, I don't know. It depends. My initial thought is no, because they get calls for help from people every single day. So that doesn't differentiate you from the normal constituent. What'll differentiate you from the normal constituent is that you're not asking for them to solve a problem. You're not asking them to do something for you. You're not going to complain about something that's happening in your community, but you're coming there as a resource to offer to them and to their office. Believe me, if all of you could do that, offer yourself as a resource, right? Even though you may believe you don't have a lot of resources, you do, right? You do have a lot of resources. You know people. You know people that know people, right? That's a resource. So if you can do that, you'll develop a much better relationship than if you go in there asking for something, because everybody asks them for something. And that doesn't make you, that's not a good way to start the relationship, I believe. Okay. Thank you for the question, Lynn. Is there a way you can see what they're spending money on? I don't know. It's a good question. I wouldn't ask them that question right now, but they don't, they have certain budgets, but they don't spend the money, right? They vote on the budget. They vote on all of those legislators that you're going to meet with. They vote on the budget, right? So the budget represents certain amounts of money that are allocated to certain parts of the budget, right? So, you can certainly look up the type of bills that they author. You can certainly look up, you can go on some of the legislative websites and see what they voted on and what they voted against to see what their thought is about things. But I would not, I probably wouldn't bring up money at any time over the next couple of visits that you have with them. Okay. Or try to, you can have those conversations later, right? Just like with your clients, right? If you have a client that abused their child on the first visit, you're not going to talk about, hey, why'd you abuse your child, right? Because eventually you want them to stop. So you have to develop a good relationship with them first before you can even broach the question and hopefully have them come up with the motivation to want to stop abusing, right? So again, focus on the relationship. Yeah, showing up complaining, elected officials get it all the time. Okay. So complaining is not going to get you anywhere. Yeah, absolutely, CJ. Yeah, take a spin on President Kennedy's quote, right? Offer yourself as a resource. How do you keep hope? Well, you know how I keep hope, Terry? I keep hope because I keep meeting more and more people that are like that share my values and my mission. And you'll see that when you get to Sacramento. You'll see the convention center filled with social workers and social work students that all want to work together for the same things, right? In service of our values. That's how I keep hope. Okay. I keep hope by sticking around social workers, right? And then and spreading that to using that to motivate me to reach out to other folks. So and if we don't have hope, might as well stop working, right? Let's see what else. What are the questions I have here? Um, yeah, look at what committees they sit on. There's lots of information about these folks, more than their website, right? You can go onto the state legislative site and find out what committees they're on. You can find different articles, all kinds of stuff. Okay. Thank you, Justin. Yes. And people know, the legislators know lobbyists. They know them. They know they get paid to do their work. You're not. That differentiates you. You're in it because of your heart and because of your values, right? That's why a relationship is the way for us to go because we don't have money to compete with the lobbyists, right? We're not there every week, every day like the lobbyists are, right? It's our relationships that are going to build our influence. Okay. Let's see. I'm just going through some of the chat here. Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments from anyone? Okay, a couple more in the chat here. Let's see. Yeah, let's connect, Jennifer. Let's connect outside of this meeting so I can tell you what I'm working on that'll be of that'll help. Okay. And because I'll put my contact information up in a second, but I think Dr. Smith put it in the chat earlier on, so you may have to scroll up and find it. Are there jobs for social workers as lobbyists? There are. I know social workers that lobby in the legislature. Okay. If any of you, my advice to social workers that want to get in any type of macro practice is this: find people that do the type of work that you want to do that get you all fired up and make you come alive, right? Those kind of people, and then meet them, talk to them, build a relationship with them, network with them, pick their brains, right? Have them share their stories with you. so that you can learn from them how they got to where they're at. Okay. Um, let's see. I'm not sure about the team leads. Thank you, Lynn. Great, Dr. Terry. That's wonderful. Virtual town hall meeting with your state assembly person. That's great. Thank you. Thank you. And Bindu's sharing all the resources there in the chat. All right. One more thing I want to leave you with. So I'm going to put it up on the I'm going to put it up on the screen here. But I also want to put this in the chat. And it's a brief 5-minute survey. So if you wouldn't mind clicking on that and giving me your feedback on this workshop. And then when you go to Sacramento, I'm going to give you um, another survey to fill out because I want to collect data over all these meetings to see what kind of impact this workshop has on those that participate in the workshops. Okay, so if you wouldn't mind clicking on that, and then when you're dismissed, you can go ahead and fill it out.